As I said last weekend, this is a rework of what was supposed to be last week's video, because everything that could have gone wrong did. I lost everything. So here we go again. These are my storytelling pet peeves. Welcome to my channel, KC. Yes, that's me, Carrie Chug, the Sledge Storyteller, here to talk about the wonderful world of storytelling and to open up discussion about how we can tell the best stories we possibly can. Now, for the record, a disclaimer. I am well aware that there are many who don't have any problem with any of these tropes that I'm talking about. But, I acknowledge the usual reasons for their use, and to be fair, but without further ado, here are my 6 pet peeves from least to worst, illustrated with skits.
I am the giant paper monster, and I have come to wreak havoc on this whole neighborhood.
Nothing I can do.
So, superhero powers, they're the means of combating the opposition. It's just sometimes a writer doesn't want to deal with getting around a plot rut, so they will either ignore their powers amid a situation where they should use them, or they will add never before used powers to get around a plot problem. Now, for all the difficulty these plot ruts create, just remember, the audience is never fooled.
Behold the Magali stone with such volatile power. Should you touch it, it will destroy you. Pick up the stone. What I told you before was a miscalculation. It only becomes volatile once it has reached under 50 degrees.
So, when there's irony in the end where the solution had already been right there, that's for some time been a fun plot device. But an example of why I don't think it works as well as it did before is with an episode of an old TV show I still like, Buck Rogers in the 25th Century. But here, Buck, played by Gil Gerard, he lands on a planet and meets a female inhabitant and later a man-like monster. After Buck has been there for some time, the science robot Crichton determines that this same girl will eventually metamorphosize into the same kind of monster that had been seen earlier. And that analysis remains until everything starts falling out of control in the climax, where Crichton realizes he had miscalculated, and that this planet's race has been metamorphosizing in the reverse of that analysis. And that for a long time this trope has started to feel like a cop-out, and like it was a dream ending, which it works in 1939 in The Wizard of Oz. It's past time to move away from the accidental miscalculation for the same reason.
That object you hold has the strongest magnetic power of any device in existence.
So, writing stories with subtle foreshadowing is indeed a big challenge, I get that, but I am still going to be critical when it comes to a story that fails at it. The standout example is Batman Cacophony, written by Kevin Smith and illustrated by Walt Flanagan. So, DC villain Deathstroke gets shot in the head, but Deathstroke has a special armor plate that leaves him without traumatic injury. As little as this story had to do with the actual plot, I was saying to myself, please don't make this a foreshadowing. But later, Batman is also shot in the head, and as predicted, Batman is just fine because guess what? He got his hands on the same plate armor as Deathstroke to protect his head. So please look at this as an example of stronger effort at subtlety in foreshadowing. Detective Soretta on the TV series Law & Order, even Carl Lewis can't outrun a bullet. When the hero manages to dodge bullets, logically, it means either of two things. The hero has unnatural quickness, or the villains aren't that big a threat. So what more can I say? Alright, now in the case of Superman, too often when he has been exposed to kryptonite, the exposure runs long enough that you're left wondering, how do we know it's lethal? Now at times, Superman has died after exposure to kryptonite, but you can argue that it was the plot that killed him, and in a manner where something, predictably, brings him back to life. So, long-term exposure to a weakness, okay, that's supposed to build tension. But the more it's done this way, the more the audience is thinking, been there, done that. You got Martian Manhunter, who has a weakness to fire. Green Lantern, he used to have a weakness to anything yellow. So it's time to de-emphasize the exposure weakness. Once the portal has been released to the Begorsian realm, all its denizens will come out and envelop the earth, and everyone living on the planet will be subject to me and be my slaves. I take solace in knowing that if I were the only person with this pet peeve, there wouldn't have been Austin Powers' International Man of Mystery. I get it, it too builds tension, but for me it's at the cost of making the villain look stupid. The whole appeal of the villain's ego can only be stretched so far, and one thing about monologues, the villain can still do that while in the middle of a big battle with the hero. And it gets even harder to accept the appeal of that scenario, knowing how quick to act the real world bad guys out there are with their decisive actions with captives. Now, that's as far as I go describing that scenario, knowing the danger of elaborating too much on disturbing realities out there. But there is plenty of potential in raising the stakes if the villain is strictly take no prisoners. But those are my storytelling pet peeves. Agree, disagree, or something I left out? Please let me know in the comment section. If you like this video, please click like. If you like this channel, please click subscribe or follow me on Instagram. The link to order Sledge number 1, as always, is below the description right there, or you can order it on Kindle. But let's look for civility amid all the bad news out there about social and political strife, as well as the pandemic, and follow the precautions given to us. I'll always implore everyone, please get your vaccination. But thanks for watching. Everyone be safe, and God bless.